Welcome. Welcome to the Moonlit live stream. Today is episode 3, the Isdal woman. Today is Wednesday, November 26, 2025. We're talking about the Isdal woman today, a very strange Cold War era case, a woman that was thought to be a spy. We're going to be documenting this case on the Moonlit Archive, my website that's up and running. You can go visit it and check it out. I am attempting to document every strange, true, and mysterious story ever that I can find. That's the point of these live streams. So we're gonna, before we get into the story, this is the Moonlit sponsor box. We're gonna pull a name out. It's Starvin Marvin. Thank you for supporting me on Patreon, Starvin Marvin. I really appreciate it. Let's get into the show. We're gonna play the archive ad really quick. Welcome to the Moonlit live stream. Before we get to the real me, I want to share something with you. I'm building what I hope will turn into the world's largest database of unsolved mysteries. Every strange story, every unsolved encounter from all corners of the internet and the world, I want to document on my website, themoonlitarchive.com. There are incredible sites out there like the BFRO, MUFON, the Black Vault, and creators like Mr. Ballin, Y-Files, and Nukes who independently catalog, research, and share these stories. But to my knowledge, no one has ever unified all of this into one organized, community-driven database. That's what I'm building at themoonlitarchive.com. Every strange story that I cover on this channel, The Moonlit Ghost, will get a case file on the website. And the best part is, you can help build it. Basically, I'm creating the Wikipedia of unsolved mysteries, where supporters can get access to edit and create their very own case files. Together, I want to create the world's largest collection of reportedly true stories from all over the internet and the world. The goal is simple, but the scope is massive. That's why I need your help. Help me document every unsolved mystery. Find stories that no one has ever heard before, and ultimately try to bring clarity or even solve these mysteries that have haunted people throughout the ages. Because every unsolved mystery is a ghost story waiting for closure, and you have the ability to do that. But right now, I'm limiting the number of editors to 100 founding members while I learn how this archive will expand and grow. If you want guaranteed access and to become a founding member of the Moonlit Archive, just sign up at the Moonlit Ghost Patreon, any tier, and you're in. For as low as $1 a month, you can join and be editing and creating your own case files and helping build the archive right now. So make sure to head on over there, sign up, and get your account. And finally, before we get to the real me, we're almost there. If you've been feeling a little, I don't know, unreal lately, don't worry, I got you covered. Because 9 out of 10 ghosts agree that this I'm Real hoodie significantly reduces the feelings of unrealness and mitigates the sensation of fading away into oblivion. There's virtually no downside to this hoodie. I mean, it's great. And you know, that 10th ghost, I don't even think he's a real ghost. I think his name is Carl, and he's like a 4th dimension time lord or something like that. Anyway, but I'm just saying, go grab one from the Moonlit shop, links in the description, and you'll be feeling so tangible that you could just like reach out to somebody and touch them. But not like in a weird way. I mean, you could do it in a weird way if that's what you wanted to do. But I mean, just go get one. Just go get one. I'm selling them on my shop right now. I'm Real, makes you feel great. Everybody's going to ask questions about it. And you can tell them all about the Moonlit Ghost in the live streams and the Moonlit Archive. Show starts in 5, 4, 3, 2. That was fun to make. All right, welcome to the show. We've got 3 people on the live stream right now. Make sure to comment so I know who you are. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me. We're going to get right into the Isdal woman. So first, we're going to just do a quick review of who this is. We're going to read, excuse me, the Wikipedia page. I know, so exciting, but that's the whole point. We're going to watch some videos after this, react to some videos of people talking about this, and archive this on the Moonlit Archive. So let's get to the reaction cam right now. Here we go. And I have to apologize because I'm watching videos on YouTube. I have to do like this weird, like ethereal, transparent version with this commentary at the bottom to do everything in my power not to have YouTube flag my channel, because we are going to be watching some videos. But we're going to just look at this, excuse me, just do a brief overview of the Isdal woman. Okay, the Isdal woman is a placeholder name given to an unidentified woman who was found dead at Isdalen, the ice valley in Bergen, Norway on the 29th of November, 1970. Although police at the time ruled a verdict a likely suicide, the nature of the case encouraged speculation and ongoing investigations in the years since. Half a century later, it remains one of the most profound cold cases mysteries in Norwegian history. Let's jump over to Joe Scott. Let's see what Joe Scott has to say about this.
This video is supported by Brilliant. Earlier this year, I did a video on the Peter Bergman case, the unidentified man who washed up on the shore of County Sligo in Ireland, who nobody can seem to figure out who he was. It's a tragic story, but apparently it's very intriguing because holy crap, that video's taken off. And at the end of that video, I made reference to a few different cases, including one that only goes by the name of the Isdal woman. And I got a lot of requests for that one. Much like the Peter Bergman case, the Isdal woman case is a story of somebody who died mysteriously under unexplained circumstances with multiple conflicting pieces of evidence, and it's all shaped by the time and place and context that it happened in. And in the case of the Isdal woman, the time was 1970, the place was the icy mountains of Norway, and the context was the Cold War.
Yeah, the Cold War. Just the research that I've done on this woman, people think that she was a spy, but there's other theories out there that she maybe wasn't a spy and she had other reasons to have like multiple fake passports and very strange different things. But let's keep listening.
Let's jump into it. Bergen, Norway is surrounded by mountains. How many mountains depends on who you ask, but the number 7 is the one that's usually used, probably because there were 7 hills of Rome. Though there seems to be disagreement on which mountains make up the 7. All the lists are different, but everyone seems to include Ulriken. Its snow-capped peak tops out at 643 meters above sea level, and it's visited by thousands of hikers every year. Some take the long way around the mountain, others ride the cable car to the top, where waiting for them is one of the most amazing views in all of Norway. But those who really want to rough it head to the north face of Ulriken, the face away from the city. It's a rugged and picturesque landscape that's not for the casual hiker, though it's relatively safe in the summers. In the winters, things get a bit more dangerous. After all, this valley is named Isludden, which means Ice Valley. Many hikers have died on this side of the mountain, and there's one particular segment of it that seems to be a particularly...
I just want to pause and give a shout out to Cats Gallery 3864. Good to see you. It's very good to see you as well. I appreciate every comment, everybody who jumps on. Thank you. Let's get back into it.
Really popular spot for suicides. And this has led locals to call this particular part of the valley by a different name, Dedsdullen.
Make sure to like the stream. That helps so much. Thank you.
The Valley of Death. And it's in this valley where on November 29th, 1970, a middle-aged professor and his 2 daughters were taking a hike. It was cold and wet that morning, and as they entered a dense forested area of black spruce trees, one of the girls saw something that made her stop in her tracks. It was the badly charred body of a woman sprawled across the rocks. By the way, if you think that's the kind of thing that would maybe, scar a little girl for life, you would not be wrong. Even today, as adults, those 2 girls refuse to talk about it.
Yeah, so he is displaying
According to
this,
police
the
reports,
image,
the woman's right arm was
the
folded
actual
across her
image
chest and her left arm was
of
extended.
this, and that's kind of another reason why I have this transparent me over the version of this, because of YouTube safety reasons and things like that. So you can kind of see it,
a boxer pose or a pugilistic pose. This is actually common with burn victims because as the muscle tissue burns, it dehydrates and contracts in. I suppose I should probably do a content warning here. I don't do those very often, but yeah, there's going to be some graphic stuff in this video. Her body was naked, although the police...
Welcome to the show, Rocky Hoarder Picture Show. I appreciate you jumping on.
Police think she was clothed before their clothes caught fire. Her body was charred, her face was burnt and unrecognizable. So the police turned to her belongings to try to figure out who she was and what happened, and this was not helpful. The complete list of items that they found at the scene include, I'm just going to read these real quick, cuffs on the arms of synthetic material, the blackened remains of textiles on stomach, crotch, hips, and left knee, The remains of dark blue stretched trousers and a stocking on the right foot, matching left stocking nearby, one rubber boot of the type known as sailor boots, outline of a rubber sole on the right knee, plastic remains of a bag or purse, wool from a sweater, skeleton of a blue nylon lady's umbrella, mostly empty bottle of Klosterlicker liquor, 2 bottles of carabiner hooks, one partially melted, found to contain water, one partially melted plastic white cup, shapeless remains of a plastic spoon, one partially burnt round plastic lid, one green checked woolen scarf with burnt end, a wristwatch found under her knee whose plastic cover had melted, freezing the hands at 12:32, and the remains of a matchbox, burnt bread or crackers, and a fur hat. A hat that smelled of petroleum. But that was the only trace of any fuel for the fire. There was no wood, no charcoal, no container full of flammable liquid or anything like that. But there was a container missing. The partially melted white plastic cup that I talked about earlier was the kind that goes on top of a thermos, and the thermos was not found. A 1970 thermos would have been made of...
Lots of details. I appreciate those details, even though they might be kind of boring to listen to for most people. I love it. I love all the detail. Just the more the better, in my opinion.
Plastic or metal with a glass inside lining, and that could have melted away completely if it was filled with gasoline, or her killer took it away. So the police set out to try to figure out who this person was and whether or not her death was an accident or a suicide or some kind of murder. The forensic examiner concluded that the body had been dead for about 6 days when it was found, which did coincide with some eyewitness reports on the 23rd that there was smoke in the air around 12:05 p.m. But the rest of the report from the forensic examiner's office was not helpful, because the cause of death was ruled as a combination between carbon monoxide poisoning, which one would expect.
I just want to point out, I don't know if you can see it in the, I love Joe Scott's channel. I hope I don't get flagged for this music playing in the background, but we'll see how this goes. You see this, maybe you can see where my cursor is. He's got a book right there called Atlas Obscura. I believe that's the entire title of the book. That's such a good book. That's so fun. That's such an interesting, it has so many interesting, weird cases and stories, true stories in there. I just wanted to point that out. I like that.
Expect from a fire. And 50 to 70 sleeping pills. It was a drug called phenomal, which was often prescribed for people with anxiety or insomnia. And it was also, unfortunately, at the time, a pretty popular drug for suicide. Its recommended dose is around 30 to 320 milligrams a day, and the pills that she was taking were 60 milligrams, and she took 50 to 70 of them, meaning she took 3,000 to 4,200 milligrams of this stuff.
Wow.
That's more. 12 pills were undigested in her stomach, meaning she probably took those just before she died, which also means that she probably took the rest of them about 2 hours before that. So did she take all those pills at the hotel before she went out there? Chances are she would have had trouble walking around at that point, especially in the rocky terrain. Unless someone was helping her. There were no cable cars until later in the afternoon, so she couldn't have taken one of those. And there are roads on the mountain, but even if she had gone down those roads, there was still a long path downward that she would have needed to take from the road. So it is kind of hard to imagine. There's a big question of how she would have even been able to get to that spot after taking that many sleeping pills, much less set herself on fire once she got there.
Wow.
And why would somebody take that many sleeping pills easily enough to kill yourself and then set yourself on fire? Sounds like overkill to me.
Yeah, that was, he deserves a shame spiral cam for that one.
What have I become? The police struggled to find an answer, but 3 days after they found the body, they got a big break. A coin-operated storage locker at the Bergen train station had...
So there are cases of people, how do I say this for YouTube? Ending themselves by setting themselves on fire. It's unbelievable. I just can't imagine how anybody could do that. I can't imagine doing that. It's just so crazy. But it just, I don't believe that the Isdal woman did this to herself. It was certainly some other complicated thing going on. She had some crazy things. Maybe she was a spy, and they told her to go to I don't know. Let's just keep watching.
Expired, and inside the attendants found 2 suitcases. This got the police's attention because those bags had been put in there on the 23rd, literally just a few hours before the woman died. And in one of those suitcases were some sunglasses that had a very clear fingerprint. They were able to match that fingerprint to the Isdal woman, so it was definitely her stuff. This was a huge clue, and what they found inside was not helpful. The listed items inside the suitcase include 500 German Deutschmarks, several pairs of shoes and boots, 2 bags from different shoe stores, a number of clothing items with labels cut out, 1 steel soup spoon with engraving, 1 bottle of perfume, 1 package of a clay-like substance, 1 scalpel-like knife, 1 map of southern Scandinavia, 3 detailed road maps of Norway, all marked 16/6 in pen, 1 with the train stations in pencil, multiple hats including a Cossack hat of beige sheepskin, a wig made in France described as mahogany brown, prescription eczema cream with all the identifying information scratched away, and 2 notebooks, 1 blank but with some pictures stuffed inside, including a picture of the Madonna with child, a postcard of a religious scene, and a postcard of a horse-drawn sleigh. The second notebook, though, it was very much not blank. On one page of the notebook were 4 tables of numbers in a sort of code. Nobody knew what this code meant, it didn't seem to have any repeating patterns, and it didn't have a cipher in it of any kind, so the police called in some experts. A specialist in the Norwegian Military Intelligence Service took a look at it, and he came out with an answer pretty quickly. Turns out it wasn't much of a code at all. The code breaker said it was some sort of travel record. The numbers are dates, the first letter after each number a month, and the letters at the end of a column stand for cities. For example, when you look at the first column, second entry, you see the code 11M16.
So that it's still a code, right? Like, okay.
ML. According to the codebreaker, that means from March 11th to 16th, the writer stayed at a city whose name begins with L. This combined with the items in the suitcase led the investigators to start piecing together her movements. Oh, remember the shoe bags I mentioned earlier? Well, one was from Rome, Italy, and the other one was from Norway. Police interviewed employees and got a description of the woman who bought the...
Okay, we're going to continue this, but we're going to go over to the Isdal woman Wikipedia page. I just kind of want to break this up for just YouTube purposes and to just kind of keep switching this up a little bit. So we read the summary of the Isdal woman. Discovery, where the woman was discovered. And before I get into that, I just want to go over here really quick. Isdal woman. This is my website, the Moonlit Archive, where I am creating these case files over on the moonlitarchive.com. You can go visit the site right now. It's still in its infancy, but I want this to be the largest database of unsolved mysteries and strange stories ever. So yeah, just that quick pitch. Discovery. On the morning of 29 November 1970, a man and his 2 young daughters were hiking in the foothills of the north face of Ulriken in an area known as Isdalen, Ice Valley. It was also nicknamed Dødsdalen, Death Valley, due to the area's history of suicides in the Middle Ages and more recent hiking accidents. They came across the charred body of a woman located among some scree. The investigation. Bergen police responded quickly and launched a full-scale investigation filed as a case name 13470. Examining the site, police noted the woman's supine position, her clenched hands up by her torso, and the evidence of a nearby campfire. The front of her body and her clothes had been severely burned, and her face was unrecognizable. Also located or placed near the body and affected by the fire were an empty bottle of St. Halvard liquor, 2 plastic water bottles, a plastic passport holder, rubber boots, a woolen jumper, and a scarf, nylon stockings, an umbrella, kind of basically everything that Joe Scott listed. Traces of burned papers. All identifying marks and labels on these items had been removed or rubbed off. 3 days later, investigators found 2 suitcases belonging to the woman, which had been abandoned by Bergen railway station. In the lining of one suitcase, police discovered 5 100 Deutsch mark notes. Among other items, they also found clothing, shoes, wigs, makeup, eczema cream, 135 Norwegian kroner, Belgian, British, and Swiss coins, maps, timetables. She's looking like very much like a spy. Like, I can't imagine a normal citizen having all of this stuff on them. An autopsy at the Geddes Institute concluded the woman had died from a combination of incapacitation by phenobarbital and poisoning by carbon monoxide. Okay, soot was found in her lungs, indicating she was alive as she burned. That's just awful. Oh my goodness. Wow. Let's just highlight that for the time being, and let's get back to Joe Scott.
Sailor boots. From the interviews, the police figured out that she was a foreigner, although people disagreed on where she was from. One described her as a young American tourist, one said that she was French, one said Jewish, Slavic, Asian, so not too helpful. At least
Wow.
2 hairstyles were mentioned by witnesses, one of which matched the wig in the suitcase, so the other one might have been her natural hairstyle. Her teeth were distinctive, with several gold crowns and a gap in the front, and she was described as slim with wide hips. A taxi driver went so far as to call her sexy. Using these descriptions in a coded notebook, the investigators were able to track her signature to 5 different hotels in Norway. And while the coded travel record matched her movements closely, it wasn't perfect. There are discrepancies between some of the entries in the code book and some of the known arrival and departure times in some of these cities. But was it a diary written after the fact to record her journey, or was it something like an itinerary that was written in advance? We don't know. Yeah, the code is mostly deciphered, but there's still a few things that they haven't been able to figure out, like Rome was important. She seemed to go back to Rome pretty often, but there were some cities that they still don't know what it is. But all in all, they found 9 different hotel registries and 4 travel forms with 10 different names, all using the same handwriting. The names were checked by investigators, as well as passport numbers and old addresses, and it was all made up. Whoever this woman was, between the codes and the disguises and the fake names, she went to great lengths to hide her identity. Combine that with a mysterious and unexplained way that she died, and that's fertile ground for a lot of different theories about what happened to this woman.
This reminds me, it's not exactly the same, but it reminds me of, I'm trying to remember the name, I believe it's the Somerton Man. He was another one of these strange figures. His body was found on a beach in Australia, I think. He was fully clothed, but he had all of these strange, like, spy documentation on him, and nobody could identify him. And I think just recently, somebody investigating the story actually has identified him. But I made a short about it a while ago, so this is interesting. What blows my mind about this is, I'm gonna skip to the main scene to. I really want to kind of go off on this. What blows my mind about this is that these aren't just movies. Like, you don't just watch spy movies and it's fun and entertaining. There are real people out there right now doing crazy things, like spy stuff. Like they're jumping out of planes, infiltrating enemy territory. They've got a briefcase full of money and passports in different languages. And these people are real. These people are real, and they give their lives to these projects. And it's just hard for me to wrap my mind around the fact that, like, there could be these people around me, like right now, doing their stuff for their government, and nobody knows about it. And we really only get stuff like this story after the fact. It's a little mind-blowing that this really happens. Let's get back to the reaction cam.
So let's get into those. Theory number 1, she was a spy. You probably saw this one coming a mile away, and it makes sense considering the codes and the disguises and everything, and the fact that this was the Cold War and Norway was really close to Soviet Union. Well, on the podcast Death in Ice Valley, which is a fantastic podcast, by the way, it's all about this story if you want to go deep on it, I'll put a link down below, but they interviewed Norway's most famous spy catcher. He goes by the name of Ernest Tufte, and he doesn't think this is a spy situation. He had actually investigated this story back in the 1970s and decided that it wasn't consistent with other spy murders that he was familiar with. He actually concluded that it was a can of hairspray that exploded. Death in Ice Valley also consulted former KGB officer and current British journalist Alexander Vasilyev, and he also didn't think that the spy theory held any water. He said that a Soviet spy would only have 1 or 2 fake personas that they would carry around, and it would have like a wealth of documents to back it up and create a legend for that persona. That wasn't the case for the Isdal woman. She had 10 different names, but didn't really have much to back it up, and in fact, only one hotel manager said that he saw her passport, and even he may have only seen the front of it. Vasilyev also made the point that a Soviet spy would have gone out of their way to avoid drawing attention to themselves, and the Isdal woman very much did not do that. As the investigators tracked her movements across all these hotels, they found out that she had a pattern of really strange behavior. She had a habit of switching hotel rooms and of moving all the furniture.
So I just get go off on like how the spy thing is so crazy, and then Joe Scott just immediately like, not a spy. Okay.
Around, sometimes just moving it out of the room entirely into the hallway. In fairness, if she was a spy, maybe she was worried that it was bugged. It just kind of seems like whatever hotel she was staying in, she was that guest that you had to deal with. So the hotel attendants had to pay particular attention to her, and that made all the details about her kind of stand out a little bit more. Like the fact that she spoke little to no Norwegian and usually spoke in German, French, or English. And then there was the smell. Witnesses at the shoe store and at the hotels claimed that there was something of an odor around this woman, something about garlic and BO mixed with cheap perfume. Some witnesses described it as nauseating. The KGB expert said that if she was a female spy from Russia, she would have smelled like Chanel No. 5, and concluded that she wasn't from a major Cold War country, although she might have been from a smaller country with a less developed intelligence agency. And by the way, if you're hearing all this and thinking like, why would a spy be hanging out in Bergen, Norway? Like, that seems like a random thing to assume. It's actually not. Bergen was actually kind of an espionage hotbed in the 1970s, specifically because of missile testing.
Could this be like kind of a mentally ill wannabe spy? That would be crazy. And somebody mistook her for being a spy, and her fantasies kind of got her in trouble. I don't know.
That was going on nearby. A guided missile known as Penguin was developed in Norway from the early 1960s and 1972. It's actually still in use by several countries, including the United States. But yeah, the area where they were doing this testing in was near Bergen, so it actually wasn't that unusual for spies to be hanging around the area. And there's one eyewitness account that may corroborate that she was there to get missile intelligence. In December 1970, police heard a story of a fisherman who claimed that he saw the Isdal woman speaking to a military officer near where the Penguin testing site was. Yeah, he apparently saw her talking for some time with a naval officer. Now, if that really was her, that brings up a lot of questions. Could this officer have been an embedded agent, or could she have been actually a courier, somebody who just transports messages from one spy to another? There's a lot of twists and turns here, but the question of whether or not she was a spy is still up for debate. Theory number 2. She was a sex worker. There is the possibility that the Isdal woman was a high-end prostitute, and the coded travel itinerary was from her, well, employer?
Clients.
Are they still pimps at that point?
Oh,
or a log sheet, like that's how she reported back to her employer. What she was doing was illegal. It would make sense why she would want to use different identities to try to keep people from finding out who she was. The wig may have been to hide her identity. It may have been because a client wanted a brunette. And there were some eyewitness reports of men going into her room or dining with her or going out shopping with her too. Now, none of this, of course, tells us who killed her or why, outside of the fact that...
So you've got two kind of like spy experts looking into the case and saying that they don't think she's a spy. But then you have her witnesses having her potentially talking to like military personnel and stuff like that. Maybe she... This is weird. Okay.
Sex workers are often the target for violence. Theory number 3, there were multiple women. When you have so many disparate threads around one person, you have to eventually consider the possibility that it's not just one person. It's possible that some of the reports and eyewitness accounts that the investigators tracked down were actually describing different women. Now that's the theory of another author who looked into the case, a criminologist named David Morgan. He wrote a book called Isdal Woman, A New Perspective. I'll put the Amazon link down in the description below, and he was kind enough to respond to our emails and clarify some things for us, so I wanted to thank him for that. But in his investigation, he focused on a young American woman that was sought by police. Early witness reports made her a good candidate for the Isdal woman, but there were some issues with her being the actual Isdal woman, but like for the fact that some of the shoe and shop employees described her differently than other people. One customer described her as a bit taller than usual, and she didn't say anything about the gap in the teeth. Though she did carry a bag with her that said California in large letters, which was corroborated by other...
Are any of you guys familiar with this story? Have you ever heard of the Isdal woman? Let me know in the comments, and what do you think about what's going on so far?
Eyewitness accounts, and she did have the apparently noteworthy BO. Now, police at the time ruled out the American woman because apparently some friends of the American woman had received some postcards that were postmarked 3 days after the Isdal woman died, but somebody else could have sent those postcards too. Bottom line is, as if this case couldn't get more complicated, it turns out there might be multiple Isdal women. Theory number 4, the serial killer theory. 2 years after the Isdal woman was found in September of 1972, Bergen was the site of another horrible tragedy. Another young woman, similar in age and physical appearance, was found murdered. But in this case, at least, we know who she is. Her name was Marianne Tunisvet, and her death was also unsolved. Her murderer has never been found. Now, some have suggested that this may have been the same person who killed the Isdal woman, and there might be multiple women that this person has killed that we don't even know about yet. Now, there is a tiny amount of connective tissue here. It's not totally spurious. Marianne's mother, Edith, was actually a maid at the last hotel that the Isdal woman stayed in, and she gave a lot of very descriptive information to the police. Could it have been another guest who had stayed in that hotel at the same time as the Isdal woman, and then he came back through later on? Or, as Edith wondered, was it some kind of revenge against her for giving all that information to the police? Perhaps this guy killed multiple women, but the Isdal woman was the only one weird enough and mysterious enough to attract the attention that it got. This theory is very much up for debate. Now, there is another theory that's worth at least mentioning. You could call it theory number 5 if you want, but possibly she just had some mental illness.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Just my brief looking into this, that's kind of what it seemed like to me, especially since there are 2 experienced spy experts who are kind of saying that this isn't a spy. I wonder if she was like schizophrenic or something along those lines.
You know, she took 50 to 70 sleeping pills. That seems like kind of a hard thing to make somebody do. So assuming that she had some kind of mental illness that made her suicidal, she also seemed very paranoid. You know, she moved all her furniture around, she changed rooms. If, you know, people say if she was a spy, she might have done that, or maybe she's just somebody who was paranoid and thought that there were people following her. You know, people with paranoid schizophrenia were not treated the same back then as they were today. And it's possible that she traveled all around thinking that somebody was following her with these paranoid delusions and eventually just offed herself. The fact of the matter is, the story of the Isdal woman is so convoluted and weird, and it's been around for so long that we'll likely never truly know the answer. Not that it stops us from trying, because we all love a good mystery, but it's important to remember that this was a person. Tourist, spy, prostitute, whatever, at the end of the day, she was a human being. And her death was tragic and horrific.
Yeah.
Even though she had taken so many sleeping pills, we do know that she was alive at the time that she caught fire. Because soot was found in her lungs, meaning she was literally choking on the smoke of her own burning flesh. Plus, as the coroner report said, she had carbon monoxide poisoning, so she had to have breathed in a lot of that. This was somebody's daughter, maybe somebody's sister, somebody's friend. Somebody out there is still wanting closure for this. And who knows, maybe they'll actually get that closure. Podcasts like Death in Ice Valley that I mentioned before are still researching this. And
yeah, I agree with that. At the end of the day, these stories that I research are very often dark. Let's skip to the main cam. Very often they are dark and disturbing. And the reason I am doing this live stream is to archive these stories and to try to build a community to help solve these mysteries. Because like Joe Scott was saying, this is a human being, and it's easy to forget that, especially when you're just watching YouTube videos all day long about these types of things. And I really want to build this community to help bring some closure to some of these cases. I'm gonna do. I appreciate you guys for jumping on. This episode was about the Isdal woman. I'm gonna go to the one more pitch for my website, the Moonlit Archive. Feel free to go visit themoonlitarchive.com. I only have a handful of cases there. You can create your own cases, anything that you want, and they're live. They will be live. It's like a Wikipedia style archive. Where you can create and edit them, and then somebody can edit your page. And the goal is for the community to help to see a list of all of these cases and help solve these cases. I want these stories. Right now, all I have is like the Wikipedia link, but I want these to be filled in, and I want to solve these mysteries. Since tomorrow is Thanksgiving, I'm going to end the live stream short. I'm gonna soon today. We're still gonna live stream tomorrow at 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and we'll have a new case for you. I appreciate you guys jumping on. Get yourself an I'm Real shirt at the Moonlit shop. Links in the description. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow night at 9 p.m.